My plan was simple. Catch 500 fish and a 5-pound bass. I thought it would be an excuse to spend more time on the water. But that little challenge turned into something else entirely. It would unfold into a 1,000-mile journey. From 2 miles high in the Rockies to a rainy night in the Ozarks. It turned out to be a journey of renewal, loss, and enduring friendship. This is the story of that summer. Every step beyond our front doors, especially steps that lead very far from our cozy hobbit holes, writes a new line in our stories. Our footprints color the pages, pages formed and textured by every choice, left or right, up, down, blue or red. But venture we must, and now. Time waits for no one. No one can buy tomorrow. And if we allow fortune to steer, if with each blind turn or fork in the road we're willing to crumple even our most elaborate plans, then we become adventurers, positioned to uncover new tastes and sounds and experiences. And sometimes even a little bit of magic. Like many things for me these days, my journey started with fishing. Last winter, I'd created a personal challenge to catch 500 fish and a 5-pound bass. I named it 500 plus 5. And I made my intentions public just to put a few teeth in it. That was the plan. What I didn't foresee was how that silly little challenge would affect me. It became a nudge, a prompt. Every morning it urged me to get out of the house and out of my comfort zone. Outside, out into nature. And that's really the key. Once you step outside, you're on the path. You join the real world, and the real world joins you. In the real world, it's not always 72 degrees. Things bite and sting and push you around. Your bed isn't so soft or warm. Outside gets between your toes, under your fingernails. And it can put things in perspective, bringing things that may seem insurmountable down to size. I didn't plan to catch a 5-pound bass right out of the gate. And I didn't. But I almost did. She was 8 ounces short, half a beer. There would be more like her as it turned out, but my fishing journey was underway. By mid-May, I'd scraped my way to 51 fish. I was off to a slow start. As for discovery, well, sometimes that's right under our noses, disguised in the familiar. My son graduated from high school in May. It's a rite of passage most of us have experienced, often in more ways than one. But among the messages of bright futures brought about by bold actions, I saw the magician's sleight of hand. In my mind, the clock rolled back. I saw my son take his first steps. a little blonde blur of coiled energy. Then I saw him getting ready for his first day of school, and eventually I saw that he wasn't little anymore. Voila, just like that, he was a man.
Callan Charleston, magna cum laude.
A man whose own adventures lie ahead. But that's his story, and one for another day. My fishing numbers continued to trickle in. I usually make hay in May, but this May was mediocre. I caught another big bass, this one also tantalizingly close to 5 pounds. What are the odds to catch 2 fish both a hair shy of my goal? Not that I'm complaining, the thrill of landing a big bass just never gets old. In early June, my path swung south into Missouri. That's where I'd meet my brother from another mother, Greg, for our yearly fishing trip. We wound our way into the Ozark Mountains, and we were welcomed warmly. We were so embedded in nature, it seemed the local wildlife were mildly surprised we were there. And as we settled in, Mother Nature reminded us who was in charge. Our rented cabin kept us safe and dry until the next morning. That's when we'd meet bass fishing legend Randy Blaukett. Randy's an accomplished bass fisherman, and we'd arranged for a guided day on Stockton Lake.
Right here is one of the most difficult techniques in fishing, because you got to put it in the right place and you got to finesse it down through the limb.
We found Randy thoroughly approachable, insightful, and humble. We learned some new tricks as Randy shared a few pages from his lifetime of bass fishing experience. And while he helped make it an unforgettable day of fishing, even Randy couldn't help Greg and I avoid another awkward selfie. Greg caught more fish than me, again, so I'm not going fishing with him anymore. Mr. Randy Blaukett was a nice guide, knowledgeable, not awkward in any way.
He was a good fishing partner.
He was. From the Ozarks, my son and I headed to south central Nebraska to, as 19th century naturalist and author Henry David Thoreau put it, pursue some path, however narrow and crooked, in which to walk with love and reverence. We'd be joined by my friend of 50 years, Coke, who understands fully the virtue of an uncomplicated life. And we knew just the place. The campsite we go to every year is a commune with nature kind of place. There's no running water, no electricity, no street lights, very little pavement. It's the definition of unplugged. 170 years ago, Thoreau literally wrote the book on Unplugged in his seminal work, Walden. Thoreau wrote of a life where he could, quote, live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. I thought we did a passable job of living to Thoreau's standards for a few days, and we may have done considerably better if it weren't for batteries. That and some really good cooking.
We're here to grill some stuff.
The campsite didn't offer many accommodations, but my friend Pesh did. Pesh is a competition barbecue guy, and we were the fortunate recipients of his craft. We ate like kings, in other words, and the company couldn't have been better. My journey to this point had been bright and sunny, but as we all know, not all days are bright and sunny. A classmate, teammate, and friend died of cancer in June. He fought hard, even making a comeback. But in the end, it turned out like it sometimes does with cancer. Too much for any man. Blake and I were around each other often throughout high school. He was imaginative and trailblazing, funny, and real. And he was smart. While I was looking through a high school yearbook, I came across a note that he'd written to me. Apparently, I needed some help with algebra. Had we had the chance, Blake and I would have shared a good laugh over that note. Life often reminds me that it's bittersweet. Out of a funeral for a friend came a chance to return home with a bird of a feather. I've been friends with Griff since high school. We could always make each other laugh. Back in the days of Carter and Reagan, in the dark days of the farm crisis, Griff and I worked on our family's farms during summer breaks from college.
There she is up on the hill.
We lived in this farmhouse, way out in the country, surrounded by a sea of prairie grass and hay and corn and cows. That little farmhouse was a place we could shake off the dust after a long day's work. And anyone who's worked on a farm knows what I mean by a long day's work. But it wasn't all work. On some Saturday nights, that little farmhouse became a magical place. It was a place where a lot of us young folks could kick up our heels for a few hours. These days, Griff and I remain close. Our adventures tend to be bigger, redder, or on the Husker Blackout Day, the new red. And more pink. The Wizards of Light and Thunder, conjuring a most indelible band from our youth. Red and black and pink, and whatever color grateful is. As I rolled into summer, my fish count inched up. Even so, I was 118 fish behind my plan, despite fishing through my historically highest producing fishing months. My journey turned once again westward. This time to the Rocky Mountains, where we'd go over the top of the world, along the highway to the sky. Ken and I were on our way to visit fraternity brothers in Winter Park. We took the long way through the Rockies, alongside the Big Thompson. 2 miles up, we paused for a selfie before heading down the western slope, toward what seemed a little bit like returning to the scene of a crime. Where are we going now, Ken?
Grand Lake.
I believe that is a former notorious Beta Sig site. Hopefully 50 years later they have forgotten about us.
We hope.
As young men, Grand Lake was in our rowdy path. But time changes a man's appetites. And this time around we ate ice cream. From Grand Lake, we made our way to Winter Park, and the vacation home of fraternity brother Dale and his wife Terry. Since college, we brothers have continued to reunite every other year since 1985. This was an off year, so roughly half the crew could make the trip. Time has a habit of sneaking past. We are far older now than our fathers were when we were in college. The years take their toll, but being older ain't all bad. The scenery's better. We're more likely to be thrilled by fresh air and sunshine, as we were once by the dark watering holes and pool halls that captivated our 20s. We drink better, in every sense of that phrase, and we have a far better command of it. And we eat better. Much better.
We call the Cajun Trinity here, the mise en place. We've got green pepper, celery, and onion.
And after 40 years, we gather not because we have to, but because we want to. My adventure was turning out to be much more than I'd planned on, but my fishing numbers were not. I was going to have to double down. I headed south to Rockford Lake to fish, and to catch up with a friend I'd all but lost track of. In the early 80s, Craig and I lived across the hall from each other in our fraternity house. The 2025 versions of Craig and I met to camp and fish and eat and catch up on the last 40 years. We talked about the usual things, jobs, family, and being happy on the backstretch of life. A few months later, as if to prove how fleeting life can be, doctors found a nearly complete blockage of one of the main arteries to Craig's heart. But they found it in time, giving Craig and I further opportunities to make up for lost time. The next day, my path wound from quiet campsites and bubbling mountain streams to the scorched asphalt of a quarter-mile drag strip in Kearney, Nebraska. A high school friend was racing his dragster, and I spent a sun-filled day with Pesh and his family. The energy at the racetrack was amped up and constant, and a nice change of pace. It was a colorful reminder of how much I enjoyed the thunder of a quarter-mile racetrack. A few weeks later, I'd head west again, this time out into Nebraska's Panhandle. I fished my way out to visit another dear friend, who also happens to be named Craig. I have an inordinate amount of friends named Craig. It's one of life's mysteries. This Craig and I go all the way back to Loomis High School. After college, we went our separate ways for a while. But these days, we're thick as thieves, as they say. We're retired, which keeps us busy. We put in some long days solving the world's problems, with insight and clarity acquired only through years of accumulated experience.
It's 2:25 and I was thinking about going to bed. Got a few things to do tomorrow.
Well, I mean, all it was like there was a serious illness in the family and you had to buy a house or something. Fall went by fast. Catching 500 fish was starting to look as likely as filling an inside straight. I had one of those great days of fishing on a misty October morning. The fish weren't big, but it seemed like every time I cast, I caught something. But the days had grown shorter, and the water cooler. And days like that were quickly becoming fewer and farther between. I finished with 332 fish. That surprised me a bit, frankly, because I've caught more than 500 fish in prior years, so I thought catching 500 would be achievable, but it just wasn't that kind of year. The goal of catching a 5-pound bass eluded me as well. I couldn't have come much closer. I caught this big girl late in the season. Oh my goodness, it just fell out of her mouth. I caught her in a lake that I fish a lot, And it's a lake that I would have sworn didn't have any fish that were larger than 2 pounds. 5-pound bass are typically around 20 inches long.
19 and a quarter.
Close, but no cigar.
19 and a quarter, huh?
Which meant I missed on both of my challenge targets. And you know what? I'm not remotely sad about that. I had an amazing adventure. And much like any decent adventure, one that unfolded into much more than it initially appeared. God gave me time. Time to fish. Time for friends.
Here's to loyal brothers,
To the hell with others. Here's to our fraternity.
Another season on this beautiful planet he gave us. Time enough. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate your time. Take care, and I'll see you next time.